right, what's up, y'all? You are now locked in with another soulful session of the Beats, Beds, and Browns podcast, where the beat hits hard, the soil runs deep, and the convo grows wild. I'm your host, Joe, and tonight we're digging into some real fertile ground with Dan Perkins of Perkins Good Earth Farm out of DeMotte, Indiana. They built more than just a family farm, but a soil-driven, people-powered mission rooted in regenerative practices, compost culture, and grower education. From salad mixes that bless your body to soil tips that build your beds, changing the game one organic leaf at a time. So roll up your sleeves, pour something brown in your glass, and let's chop it up with Good Earth Farm and Dan Perkins. Welcome. All right, we appreciate you being here tonight, Dan, and we're going to start just like we do all of our interviews. Where you at, where you been, and where you going?
All right. Awesome. Well, I'm in our cozy, what formerly would have been the loft, hay loft for a 1920s dairy barn that we've converted into a nice, cozy Airbnb on the farm. So that's literally where I am in Northwest Indiana, DeMotte. We're just south of the Kankakee River. And yeah, it's just great to be here, Joe. I've enjoyed some of your podcast listens and your guests, and I think you got a unique approach, and I happen to love, the Browns as well. So, what can I say?
Fantastic. Well, thanks for joining us. It is our honor to host you. Before we jump into the agritourism with the tiny home and the things that you've done to the property, take us back to the roots and tell us, how did Perkins Good Earth Farm come to life?
Sure. So I'm a first generation farmer. So I grew up a city kid in Portland, Maine, and here I find myself in the Midwest. And I really just, went to school in the Midwest, started to learn about agriculture and the environment, and realized, wow, the food we eat is so critical to how the earth is cared for or not cared for. And I want to save the world. I want to solve all environmental problems. Because, usually you take one or two environmental science courses and you're pretty depressed. It's pretty like, oh man, we're doomed, and so I kind of set out about how to do that. And the food system in agriculture quickly became wow, 80% of the land use is agriculture. What we do and how we raise our food really matters. It can really, I believe it can fundamentally solve all our problems, climate change, poverty, all these different things. When you start really getting into it, agriculture in some way, shape, or form can help address those. And so, through college and learning about things, and after college, I was like, well, man, if I want to influence agriculture, I better know what the lifestyle is like. So I started working on different farms. I didn't have much college debt, and I was single, and I could just, go work on farms for free or very low wage and just get experiences. So I did that as much as I could. And they happened to be, smaller organic vegetable farms. And so I did a number of apprenticeships, then started managing farms, and just fell deeply in love with the soil. Like, I was thinking law school, environmental law, go represent farmers, that kind of stuff. And I just never made it that far. I just like growing food for people, feeding my neighbors and the community around me just was such a profound experience, and was saving the world. Like, I was like, this is a win-win. Why would you not want to be a farmer?
Definitely about the saving the world piece. I mean, let alone the Portland to DeMotte pipeline for ag advocacy. But
right,
you're right in the middle of corn country. This is commercial ag from as far as the eye can see. How do your neighbors perceive you? How do you climb that ladder? How do you make that jump being an organic grower in the middle of corn country?
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting. As part of my journey, we bought this place in 2009. My wife grew up in this area, and she said she would never marry a farmer. and would never move back to her hometown. And look what happened.
Double whammy, Dan.
Yeah, double
Joke's
whammy.
on her.
Yes. And, as being first generation farmers, we had to, purchase the land. It was a rundown, dilapidated dairy, just a kind of some woods and a blank cornfield that was conventionally farmed. And so I worked for 10 years as a certified crop advisor for the county, doing like soil conservation, no-till cover crops with actually all the conventional farmers in our area. So I know almost all of them, and they have a deep respect for the work that like I was trying to do. And it's been really fascinating because some of our best customers are those very conventional farmers, and I think they're like, good for you, Dan. You found a niche. You found certified organic that gave you a price premium, and a way to make a living off a much smaller scale. That's impressive. And so it's you would think there'd be animosity or like, oh, what are they doing? That's weird. And of course, a lot of people think we grow pot. I mean, that's unfortunately a characteristic, but yeah, it's
but almost the reverence and like you got away. You escaped the confines of commercial growing because large commercial growing is you're debt ridden. You're locked into long-term growth. You're at the whim of Mother Nature, as are you potentially, but maybe a little bit more resilience with the organic practice.
Well, right. And I think a lot of farmers, I really realize it's not the individual farmer themselves. They don't want to spray chemicals. They don't want to hurt the earth. I mean, they are very reverent and are caretakers too. They're just stuck in a system, right? And they have said to me many times, like, hey, if you can show me how to do this organically, how to grow grains, how to, scale this kind of stuff up, show me and I'll do it. I'll do it in a second. Obviously they can't lose the family farm doing that, but like I think in a lot of ways, farmers are farmers and then we're doing the same thing and we're all needed. It's just, how do we do it in a more regenerative way? Right. And that's where like this idea of certified organic or regenerative, it's the kind of the trendy term right now, really comes into play. Like, what does that mean? What does that mean for your farm and where you get your food? It's kind of it's an interesting challenge to define that.
So, again, you had volunteered on a number of farms, you had worked the circuit, you had gotten some familiarity. What was the push, what the aha moment, or what got you like into buying a farm and saying, we're going to make a run at this? Because had you established a market distributing products, or was it a straight from scratch type thing?
It was a straight from scratch thing. It was, we're an hour and a half drive from downtown Chicago. So in the back, I had always worked on direct market farms because it was, I didn't have a family farm that I was going to hit or $1 million, or combine. So I knew commodity grain production I wasn't interested in. It was too big for me. I think I just couldn't grasp that kind of concept. But the smaller like market farming where you're raising vegetables and food that is going directly to your consumer, really drove me and what was a lot of my experience. And so I worked on a lot of farms that were successful at doing it. I think that's critical. They were successful and they looked successful. They had retirements. They had a good lifestyle. That was attractive. And so it was like, well, where's land affordable? Where's family? And that happened to be DeMotte, Indiana. Because out in Maine, we could have gotten about a half acre of, farmland for what we got 20 acres for.
Wow.
It's just astronomical, and it's even worse today. Right.
So you just go whole hog and you start, what were the first crops that you grew? I mean, obviously it was a little by little, or?
Yeah, we took about 10 years to develop the farm. We grew about 10% every year. I worked off farm. So like many farmers, it it was definitely more than hobby, but we started with like a 30-member CSA, community supported ag. So it's kind of like a magazine subscription for vegetables. And these were just friends and family. Julie grew up here. I think we had a tremendous amount of social capital because of that. And people, we have no competition. Like the local grocery store has, very limited vegetables. Trader Joe's, Whole Foods are all an hour plus away. So people were looking for a good alternative. And so we fit that. So during those 10 years, we grew by 10%. We built high tunnels. We put in a well. We started with like 1/10 of an acre. And then each year we basically added another 1/10 of an acre plot. A 60 by 100 area has 12 beds. You can, to where we are today, where it's like 2¼ acres, we raise 22 tons of food an acre. There's a metric in market farming that if you can grow sales of 80,000 to 100,000 per acre, you're doing something right. Like you're highly productive and you're selling your produce or product at a high enough value to actually make a middle-class income. And so we are slightly above those metrics for our operation. And that's just, I think, a testament to our quality of produce, but also to the community that they value local food production. We survey our customers 3 or 4 times a year, and they're always coming back to, at first I thought it was organic and, maybe that was what people valued. And some people do, but the majority of our customers value the fact that they know us. They know our kids go to school with their kids. We go to church together, and that they have a ready food supply. If enough, there's something, it's relationship, right? And that's pretty profound.
So they can stop in to the market on site. They can be a part of the CSA or subscription.
Yeah.
They can find you at farmers markets. Probably the closer they are, the less likely they are to travel for that. But what other ways are you guys creating revenue?
Sure. So we have our CSA. There's about 200 families. So that's about 1,000 people a week right there we feed. And we are a very traditional CSA. It's not a box that's delivered to you. You come to the farm, it's farmers markets, like pickup. So there's no exchange of money. You get choice. We've really honed in on that, that's what people value, is they value choice and knowing us and accountability. So when you commit to a weekly vegetable share, it's like, you're going to eat those vegetables.
And then if you can hand pick them too, that has an extra layer.
Yeah. Like maybe you don't like kohlrabi, but you love, eggplant. Okay. You don't have to take kohlrabi. It's not going to go to waste. And then our farm stand is probably about 15% of our business. So CSA is not right for everybody. People are busy, dual working household or something. There's not time to cook. Okay, the CSA is probably not a good option for you. And then we have wholesale. So we sell through Region Roots, which is a food hub that we helped start in Crown Point. They're now 30 to 40% of our business. So we're sending pallets, 27 tons an acre. So we raise 40, 50 tons of food a year.
That's amazing.
That's a lot of pallets.
Yeah.
So we send 3 or 4 pallets a week to the region. So the Northwest Indiana Food Bank, a lot of the local public schools get our produce. And that's just been nothing warms my heart more than knowing children are eating organic, tasty produce. That's saving the world. It's like I've accomplished my goal, right?
Well, and there's so many statistics and metrics where attention span increase and overall mental health and wellness increase with the increased nutritional diet. It really is changing the world.
Yeah. And I think the conventional mindset, that we set under Earl Butz, the USDA secretary in the 1960s, was his a famous quote of saying, we're going to raise we're going to have the cheapest food system in the world. And we have accomplished that at great cost to everything else. Right. And so we've accomplished what we set out to do. Now we have to step back and say, okay, what do we really want to accomplish? We want not farming by the few for the masses, but we want farming by the masses for the masses, right? Like if we could take our farm that's, 2.5 acres and replicate it 100 times over in Northwest Indiana, I think that would be amazing. And I think your seed kit idea is like it's a seed. It's a start of doing that, right? Because there's people out there like myself, a city kid turned farmer. Like how does that happen? And I think it's because the very people that like didn't grow up in farming can think outside the box or can see things differently, right? And yeah, I think that's incredibly hopeful.
And you talk to the magic of farming, and that's not restricted to having acres of land. I mean,
Right.
we advocate that you could have a coffee can and drop in our seed kit and have fresh dill to put on your salmon or make dill dip. And once you experience that, I think it's just natural. I don't have any myself, but you get a tattoo and that feeling is addicting. And then you've got to get a second one and a third one. And then you end up with a whole sleeve. That's how it was for me growing is, threw some seed in the ground. It sprouted. I sampled it. It was magical. It was better than anything I've ever had at a grocery store. What else can I try? How do I get more? And again, that's what we encourage through our 100K in 10 years initiative. Scan the QR code. Visit us at beetsbedsbrowns.com. Register for your free seed kit. We'll send carrot, dill, chaos seed kit is new this year, anywhere in the contiguous 48. So thanks for referencing that, Dan.
Yeah, no, I think that's a cool thing. And Ben Hartman, he's a local Indiana author, has a book called the Lean Micro Farm, and its subtitle is How to Make $20,000 on a quarter acre of land. And he outlines, it's such a powerful concept and a powerful kind of like real practical guide to, hey, you want to make a part-time income or one of your kids want to do this? Here's how you do it. And you don't need acres and acres land, and you don't need thousands of dollars to start. It's like seed and some customers, and you're good to go.
So I know we just got 8 inches of snow here in Northwest Indiana. What does that do to the farm? And do you close up for the season? I know you've got high tunnels on property. Do you keep growing?
Yeah, we have about a quarter acre under tunnels. So that's like, I don't know, 7 or 8 high tunnels now. And so those are chock filled with like crops that can freeze solid as long as they don't have a wind chill on them. And we don't have to heat them. So they're not causing global warming through use of, fossil fuels. But on a sunny day like today, it's 70 degrees in there and we're harvesting. We harvested 200 pounds of salad mix, 600 heads of lettuce, and 50 heads of cabbage today that will go to people at the end of the week. And so, yeah, that's what we're doing this time of year, despite the snow, because of, simple technologies like that, which is pretty cool. And you can do this at a home.
Does that get you into 4 seasons growing or?
Well, we did. So that's kind of the crazy thing. Since we do operate as a business, primarily, I've come to kind of understand this. I was primarily driven by ideals and saving the world. Yeah. And then I quickly realized, we got to feed our kids. And
hey, we're in capitalism. Ideals don't drive the bus.
Right, exactly. And so it's kind of like, all right. And I realized there was such a big gap in my education and understanding of the business side of things, that now one of my main missions, like with other farmers that I interact with, young beginning farmers or my employees or the apprenticeship program that we have, is like dream big. Like early on, I was like, oh man, if we can make $100,000 in sales, that'll be enough. No, like you gotta get that metric of $80,000 to $100,000 per acre of production. Right. Then you can farm at less than 2 or 3 acres and make a living. And so whatever it takes in your context and your place and your management skill to do that, make that happen.
So the soil, you mentioned your love for the soil, and the soil is what pays the bills. So Do you no-till? Do you fertilize? Do you crop cover? Like all the things that are, us gardeners are reading about. Like, yeah, that sounds like a great idea, but what are the realities behind some of that?
Yeah. So, yeah, it's a really good question. So we are a no-till deep compost permanent bed system. I think that's the most holistic way to describe it. And so what that means is that, and we're human powered and appropriate scale. We have some mechanization. We're really dependent upon that compost and the input of carbon to drive our soil fertility. And so I like to talk about like 4 principles of soil health that really enable us to farm profitably, to really have a soil that's living and alive. And, that is an indicator or shows up in the quality of our food, the taste, the feedback that our customers give us. That's what the science all points to. If your food tastes really good and has a good flavor profile, like a tomato or a carrot, it's actually nutrient dense. And that only comes from a soil that is alive. That's what regeneration really is, right? We're not just sustaining something, we're actually making it better. And so, like, you can do this at my scale, you can do this on thousands of acres. The principles really hold true. You can do this in your back garden, with the seed kit. And where we've arrived is like, you disturb the soil as little as possible. Like, I don't have a rototiller and I, farm on 2.25 acres. That's kind of crazy in vegetable production land. We grow over 30 different crops. We use cover crops. We have diversity. We keep the soil covered. We're using cover crops. We're using mulches. We're using black tarps, those kinds of things. And we keep a living root in the soil. I mean, it's kind of crazy when you look out across the landscape right now and, our conventional fields are brown or they're bare soil. That soil is starving. There's life in there that needs to eat from living roots, even if those roots are dormant. And that's not happening. It's kind of like having a factory that you close down for 6 months out of the year. That's how inefficient our current production model is, and why it's so dependent on inputs is because we're not using the way God kind of designed nature to be abundant. Like, with our system and kind of with some of these principles played out, we are so productive. I could probably increase my production by 30%. I just couldn't sell it all right now. Yeah. So it's amazing how abundant Mother Nature can be when we just come alongside her, when we utilize what's happening already.
And with the compost that you're adding, is it spent crops or unused crops that go bad? Is it wood chips? Is it manure from other farms? Or how are you managing the inputs coming into the farm?
Yeah, really good question. So in organics, and this is why I always say it takes all farms of all types, maybe just not as many as the conventional minded, is like our compost source comes from a conventional dairy. Those owners, our customers, farm members of ours, have been for years. We take their dairy bedding calf manure and wood chips. It's at a 20-acre compost site, so they can create a lot of compost at an affordable price. That's the engine that drives our system.
So you're buying that from them as a customer of them, and then they're buying the output from you, and kind of circular economy type stuff.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's like it's how nature is supposed to work. It's supposed to be cyclical and not flatlined, right? And then the town of DeMotte dumps all their leaves here because they're big enough now. The town's like 5,000. They can't burn their leaves because it turns into a war zone in the fall if people do. Yeah. And so we get those for free. So we're providing a service to the city, and I turn those vegetables into cash. That carbon, those nutrients are so valuable once you get them to the proper state, that's actually become more of my carbon driver, my soil health kind of food source than the composted manure, which is cool because it's free and it's doing a good service, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And and increasing the output, as you mentioned, is reflective in the flavor, indicative of the better nutrient value. That's one of the things that hit us. We saw a documentary, and grocery stores, or the food produced for grocery stores, are for inexpense and shelf stability, not for flavor or nutrient density. So it's going to look fantastic, and it's going to be perfect without a blemish, but it's going to taste like cardboard.
Right. That's right. Because it's really fundamentally about how do we get vegetable A from California to the coast of Maine in the cheapest, most unperished way possible. Well, you're going to sacrifice some things when you select varieties and breeds to do that, right? Yeah.
So when you're growing year over year, do you just kind of grow what you want to grow or what you've had success for, or do you try new things, and are you building what the CSA looks like in terms of options in advance and planning, whatever the growth cycle is?
Yeah. I mean, our customers drive everything we do. Like what the customer values, that's what we value. And so we survey our CSA customers every season. So we offer a spring, summer, fall. And what's kind of risen to the top is we're always refining this, is like always have carrots, always have salad mix, always have spinach, always have head lettuce. And then after that, it's just seasonality. Like, oh, you want broccoli in the fall? Okay, we'll do two or 3 weeks of broccoli. Kohlrabi, some of the weirder vegetables, 2 weeks of that in small amounts is good. And so what happens is we tell people we take them on a veggie adventure where we provide the veggies they need and love. So like you need to eat kohlrabi and brassicas and kale, but you may not like it. So we make it fun. Try to. And that's just, that's a way of kind of keep returning back to not what Dan, I had to learn the hard way. It's not what Dan likes, because what I like, I'll grow a lot of. Like we used to do, 6 beds of eggplant, and I'd always have tons of eggplant left over. Why was that, Dan? Because it wasn't like yeah. You can only eat so much ratatouille, right?
Yeah. Oh, eggplant on the grill though.
Oh, true.
Turns to butter. Oh,
yes.
So delicious. So you mentioned kohlrabi. What's another sleeper veggie in your lineup that deserves more hype?
Fennel. Over the last couple of years, we've kind of, I do all the production. My wife is like the CFO. She's my boss basically. And so.
Welcome to being married, Dan. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. It works well. It works well in our marriage relationship and our business together. Because she's definitely a key of this. And so in my production, I used to not grow fennel. And then she kind of got interested in, our CSA members were like, hey, what about fennel? I love licorice and it looks kind of cool and you can use all different parts of the plant. And so the last 3 or 4 years, we've really spent more time educating and farm members. We have a private Facebook group. They talk to each other, come up with recipes. And it's like, I've gone from growing like 50 bed feet to now like 2 full beds, which is a lot of fennel. It's like hundreds of bulbs of fennel. And so
fennel attracts a bunch of butterfly larvae, caterpillars. And how do you deal with, is there some that you leave fallow for the next year to keep the native insects pollinating, or?
Yeah, really good question. So what we have on our farm, the beauty of having like a permanent bed is that we grow in the same place every year and our paths stay all the same. And then we have between our plots, our 60 by 100 plot, that 1/10 of an acre or so, we have hedgerows, which are native plantings of like big blue stem, little blue stem, all these flowering shrubs and plants that are, instead of me having to take ground out of production, I can have these various strips all over the farm that host the wildlife, that host the beneficials for me. Because we need places for those guys as well.
Did I hear right? Crop rotation is a big thing in gardening, and you're saying the beds stay the beds for that particular product year after year?
The bed, in the sense that it's not the bed. I'm not going in with a rototiller fresh year, but that bed is in its same place. So it's like, as a home gardener, you might have a raised bed, so you're growing in that same place. I'm doing that same thing. I'm just not putting woods on this, or bricks, or like raising it in a trough or something. But at a field scale, imagine 2 acres of permanent beds, but then we do crop rotate, between plant families, and heavy feeders and light feeders is kind of the main 2 big groups I go by.
So again, we encourage people who've never planted a seed all the way through to commercial ag. Storytelling is such a big part of what you guys do. What advice would you give other growers about, connecting with their audience and building a community?
I mean, I think it's really important to know your context. So I think one of the fundamental reasons, like, our farm is working in a rural context, small town, like, most people think of certified organic vegetables as like for the wealthy and like urbanites. But I think because my wife grew up in this area, which is largely agricultural, people have a connection to the land, and that's our appeal. We're raising a high quality product that's highly perishable. So we will always beat the grocery store, not on price necessarily, but on quality and taste and flavor. And that people value that. I think that's such a relational based kind of event, and not just a transaction where you give us cash and you get vegetables. I think that's really important. And so my advice to, someone starting out is like, just start. Like, I love growing garlic, and I started with like 8 bulbs, and now we grow 20,000 bulbs every year, and it's like, it's a major cash crop, and we sell seed, and like, I just love it. And it's whatever vegetable that is for you, or farm product. Maybe it's raspberries, maybe it's hazelnuts from a tree. I don't know. Whatever it might be, just do that with excellence and with passion. And, eventually you can figure out a way to make an income from it if you want to do that. Right? So I think there's a lot of skills you have to acquire. There's knowledge. There's a bit of luck, or just your timing being right. And then just dang old persistence and grit. Yeah. Like, I finally feel like I think in 2019, I quit my day job, what I did for 10 years, and began farming full time. Then our farm really took off. Like, when I could focus all my energies and efforts, that just was amazing to experience that. And now we're in a season where, like, we have, money's tight, obviously, but we're pretty frugal. We'll be debt free in 2 years. So I think there's a trajectory of where your first 3 to 5 years of a business is crazy. Yeah, you'll work 80, 100 hours a week, but it doesn't have to be that way. You have to somehow have a vision for something different rather than just assuming it will be that way. And it's not easy.
What about a moment where you really felt the impact of your work, whether it be in the community or to the greater region, or even outside of the region?
I think locally, this was like a couple of years ago. A young mom became a CSA member, and my wife is much better with faces and knowing the customers. I generally just call everybody one Joe or Bill or something,
Chief, how you doing? Yeah.
And they're like, nope, Dan, we know you. But she goes, yeah, I grew up, you don't know this, but when I was 16 to 18, my parents made me eat these vegetables, and then I went off to college or, something else. And I realized I was eating really well. Like, what I was eating was like a gift. And so now she moved back to the area, has a family, and like her little toddlers run around, like grabbing spinach and stevia leaves from the pick your own area. Like, I mean, I get goosebumps right now thinking about, like, this is like a second generation we're feeding. I haven't been farming all that long, but like, that's pretty profound, right? To have, you're a young child that's from someone else who grew up on the farm, and I get to keep doing that year after year. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and that leads right into the next question. How do you see, regenerative agriculture evolving in the Midwest, and what role do you hope to play in that shift?
Yeah, I think regenerative ag is something it's about relationship And I think what will happen is as we get more farmers on the landscape, our land will be better cared for because there'll be more people watching and there'll be more people involved. The person buying the produce, the food, the farm product, the flour made from organic wheat or regeneratively grown wheat, the wearing the clothes from cotton that's regeneratively grown, they will not just be a consumer, they will be a knower. They will know that the food and the clothes they're wearing, the products they're using are from a good source and they're connected. It's like the exact opposite of like social media, right? It's like we are connected because we really are connected, not just scrolling, right? Not just consuming. I think that's where
you're going to provide that to your CSA members with their online community via Facebook, right? It gives them a deeper engagement and a sharing of vested interest and
Yep. And some accountability, like, oh, that person is using that vegetable that's in my fridge for 2 weeks. I'm going to do that too. There's some good to it too, but just being able to walk like the fields and hear a perspective about someone who's growing food, I think provides some security. COVID taught us real quick. We got 2 to 3 days of food in the grocery store. We better have a source. I think I don't like to do fear marketing or fear-based thing, but it's also that taught us something, I think.
Yeah. And just that last comment, you mentioned the beauty of the moment. And I remember touring your farm with the Food Council and going out into the openness of it and the birds chirping. And it was a gorgeous, warm day. And as I'm standing outside the past couple of days in the 8 inches of snow, it's like that's already gone. And that experience, even in my own yard, is something that I cherish on a daily basis, and that connectivity to the land and to be able to cut fresh or collect fresh and eat that for dinner and the flavor. It's an experience. And again, we're trying to share with as many people. I know you are as well. When you're out working in the fields, you got the team. Are you guys listening to music? Are you guys letting the birds play their song? Or
yeah, I go through kind of phases and seasons. If we're doing a pretty monotonous task like harvesting those 20,000 bulbs, in a 2 or 3 day period, we'll get some Bluetooth speakers on there and blast some, good old tunes. We have like up to 12 employees in the summer, and they're usually a younger crowd. So I get all sorts of different music inputs like Wolfpack and a lot of funk, Scary Pockets type stuff that I'm still listening to that stuff, 3 or 4 years after someone introduces it. So
I love that exploration of new sound. Literally anything that makes my foot tap is what I like. Right. So it could be symphony, it could be bluegrass, it could be country. Hip hop happens to be what we've dedicated the show to, but it's amazing. How about after a hard week at the farm? What's your reset ritual? What do you do to get a little bit of escape?
For me, I play pickleball this time of year. That's literally like I'm doing this interview, even though like there's a great pickleball open play going on right now. It kills me a little bit, but I was like, well, this is worth it.
Where do you do that in DeMotte, or do you do?
There's a place, the Rec, that has a 6 courts, and during the main season I don't get to play much because I'm just physically tired. But like as the season kind of winds down, I'm there every day. My kids love going. That is really a great reset for me, where I can just hone in and not think about anything else, just like what's right in front of me. Right.
It's such a fun game.
Yeah.
We played when the kids were young. Now they're more competitive. It's more fun. It's
Yes.
Well, Dan, I appreciate your time spent with us this evening and sharing your story. We couldn't do what we do without farmers like yourself sharing of their time. Could you share with our audience where people can find you online and connect with your community and attend the market hours and the CSA?
Sure. Yeah. You can find us at perkinsgoodearthfarm.com. And then we have Facebook, Instagram, and you can find us through Region Roots too. A lot of our product goes to their food club or farm club, they have a distribution of boxes that are delivered over an 8-county area in Northwest Indiana. So we supply a lot of stuff. An important way to support local food production. I mean, we need more buyers so that we have more farmers. It's pretty much that simple. So anytime we can do that, if you don't know the farmer near you or down your road, maybe Region Roots can get you a box of, locally raised produce and farm products.
Incredible. I'm going to go ahead and take you out in the green room. We're going to close out the show. And then if you could stick around for a couple minutes just so you and I can chat, we can round out the interview. Thanks again, Dan. We appreciate you. All right. That was season 6, episode 3 of Beets, Beds, and Browns with Dan Perkins of Perkins Good Earth Farm. If you're interested in emerging hip-hop, garden interest from homestead to commercial ag, or bourbon whiskey distillers, you're in the right place. Tell a friend. Find us on social at Beets, Beds, Browns. Visit us at beetsbedsbrowns.com. Make sure you register for your free seed kit. We want to give away 100,000 free heirloom seed kits in the next 10 years. Get people enjoying the experience that Dan and I were talking about of growing your own food. Whether you've got an acre or multiple acres or just a coffee can on a patio, you can start growing your own food, and we encourage you to do so. With that, we're going to close out the show. Thank you for joining us, and happy planting.